my family growing up, my dad always had kind of a temper. He'd give you the shirt off his back. He was a great guy, but he had a tough temper. And he was a very hard worker. He was a workaholic. I'm a workaholic, but he was a workaholic also. And he would work at the railroad, and then he would come home and he'd work selling carpet and doing other type of sales stuff. But when one of my first memories with my dad was he had a lot of road rage, and we were driving down Washington Boulevard. I remember I was probably only about 3 or 4. I probably couldn't communicate very well. 3 or 4, driving down Washington Boulevard, and there's this cowboy in a big 4-wheel drive truck, and him and my dad got into words and started yakking at each other. My dad says, "Pull over," and the guy, pull over, and they fought back and forth. They didn't ever. I don't think the guy ever did pull over. My dad would pull over quite often and get in fights, though. He was always doing stuff like that, and his simple solution was to argue and fight about most everything. But my first memory with my dad, one of my first memories with my dad, was him getting in a road rage incident and almost getting in a fight with a cowboy in a big 4-wheel drive truck. That's my first story with him. But he was a very hard worker, and he would work. And I'm sure that's why he was ornery a lot of times, is because he would work so much and was so tired so often. He was very, very driven and wanted to be successful. He grew up in a poorer part of town in Ogden, down on 30th, 28th and Wall, 30th and Wall. In fact, his address is 222 East 30th Street in Wall, on Wall Avenue in Ogden. So he first lived in the Ogden Rescue Mission, which was an apartment housing on 28th and Wall by the old railroad yards there. But then he moved into a house at 222 East Wall, 30th Street, 222 East 30th Street. That whole house is still there. And he fought all the time. He said he fought Mexicans and blacks every day, always breaking his fingers, always fighting. And he was always fighting and arguing when he was old, let alone must have when he was young. He was either very nice to people, or sometimes he would at the drop of a dime he would fight, or he would argue. So anyway, but he was a hard worker, and it's too bad that he didn't eventually. He may eventually mellowed out, but it's too bad that he didn't mellow out and start creating a gentler climate earlier in life.